We would like to welcome you to another episode of Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar, special video edition. Now you get to see what we look like. My name's Chris.
I'm JB Quattro.
And this is Rex Rotsko on guest for Scott Freelo, who got his hand cut off inside of a weather ventilator on Cloud City. He had cybernetic enhancement surgery to replace that hand. So we wish Scott well. He's given us some pre-recorded responses for some of the questions that we're going to ask today. So we'll be playing those later in the show. This is Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar International, which is a cross between Lane Meyer's Garage and Better Off Dead and the Whorehouse in Big Trouble in Little China. So there we go. All right, let's kick this off. Today we're going to be discussing...
Scott.
We're going to be discussing and commemorating the death of Robin Williams. The news now is kind of fully out. You know, we're about a week away, or several days past his death, and the more that we learn about his death, the sadder the details are. We find that he had a deep depression that was brought on by cancellation of television shows and financial troubles, and also he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which the experts are saying didn't contribute to, it wasn't total cause for his suicide, but definitely contributed to his depression. So we're here to celebrate his career and talk about the guy that is Robin Williams. So start off with you, John.
Where are we starting with? Just the five favorites, or
No. I think where we should start off is you know, what thing have you seen him in that kind of that gives you the best memory of Robin Williams?
I mean, the best memory I have of Robin Williams, honestly, is his stand-up. I mean, the first time you figured out who he was, and I mean, I saw him in Mork and Mindy, but it was sort of a shtick, and I just didn't watch enough TV back then. But you know, when I saw his stand-up special, and it was one of these HBO specials where they had multiple comedians, and he was one of them. It's all over the internet, and he walks out on stage, and he does this Shakespearean bit, and he goes, "The moon hangs low like a severed testicle," and some woman just erupts into peals of laughter, wah, 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 wah. And he goes, "What news, Sister Hernia?" Like, you know, and it's just like, to make someone laugh that hard and then dial it up a notch, that's sort of, like, I think, symbolic of how fast he was on his feet, and I was sort of hypnotized by his live performing, and it kind of inspired me to want to be a comedian. I've only ever dabbled in it, but he's a real inspiration that way. So that's my fondest memory of him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what about you, Rex?
Well, it's funny he mentioned the whole Mork and Mindy situation. Mork and Mindy came out when I was in high school. And I don't know if you can see any resemblance. I have been compared to him physically and in delivery ways ever since then. And my nickname, one of my nicknames in high school became Mork. And it was because they said, "Oh, you're just like that guy on that TV show that's out there, Mork." So basically, he's been a part of my life on a personal level ever since he first appeared. But so if we're talking about moments in his movies that have meant a lot to me, if I can go there, we talked about that, was Fisher King. If you've seen Fisher King, probably not one of his more well-known movies, but there's one thing that I have used as an example on more occasions to try to promote empathy for people and put things into perspective. The old walk a mile in my shoes. There's a scene in Fisher King when he is running down the street being chased by a dragon. And he's screaming in holy terror. And when you see it from his POV, there is a dragon right on his heels. And he's, of course, terrified. He's beyond terrified. And then you cut to the people on the sidewalk. There's some crazy guy just screaming down the middle of the street. They're like, yeah. Well, what the heck? You know, I mean, he's just nuts. But then to get that back to him, and I think about, you have no idea what people are going through. You know, and their demons are incredibly real. Their dragons are incredibly real. And I just have always used that moment. It just struck me as seeing that and going, wow. You know, it's like you give yourself some slack when you're dealing with things that seem not important, but, you know, to you, they're dragons.
Right.
So.
Well, Robin, the thing that I remember Robin for, and coming up as a kid in the 80s and the renaissance of HBO in the 1980s, the two stand-up comedians that really stand out for me, they kind of led the renaissance of stand-up comedy, was Richard Pryor and George Carlin. Carlin did his Carnegie Hall special, and Richard did his Live on Sunset Strip special. Well, Robin did Live at the Met, and to me, that is his version of those two comedian specials. And the one line from that comedy special that always I just loved was his honesty, and he talked about his addictions with cocaine and also being an alcoholic. And one of the lines in his comedy stand-up I just love is, "I used to drink alcohol all the time until I woke up naked on the hood of the car with the keys in my ass." And I just so great. I mean, just funny as hell. And I mean, he was such a unique performer compared to a lot of these guys. I mean, comedians and actors, they show versatility, but I mean, this guy, man, I mean, it's like I said, man, he's just bombastic, just that rapid fire. I mean, so quick. I mean, Jimmy Fallon played one of his first clips from The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he just grabs a mic and just walks up and starts riffing on the audience. And I mean, it's just lightning speed. And I mean, he's such just a unique performer. And I mean, it's really sad to lose a guy like that. It's really, really sad.
I don't think Carson's ever been more happy with a comedy performer. And for a while there, if Johnny Carson gave his blessing to you and called you over to the couch, that was a sign you'd arrived. That was sort of what every comedian aspired to. And Robin Williams could not get out of performance mode, and you could see Johnny Carson was just laughed so hard he probably got a hernia, dude. Like,
yeah.
He enjoyed that guy so much. So, he was obviously one of a kind.
I was just going to say that you talk to a lot of people, a lot of comedians who always talk about, oh, he inspired me, I wanted to emulate him, and as you may, I mean, I was doing comedy in the 80s in LA at the time, and you talk to people like that. Inspire, yes, but he wasn't someone I think you could emulate. You either could do that or not. I mean, he didn't get up and say, "So, where are you from?" That wasn't his stuff. I mean, you don't see anyone emulating Robin Williams. It's just this gush sort of thing that happens.
Yeah, similar to that thinking, I sat down, and usually when someone dies before, I don't know, did either of you guys see Lenny, the movie about Lenny Bruce in which Dustin Hoffman
No,
played?
I haven't caught that.
Great movie. I would highly recommend watching that movie. And Dustin Hoffman does a super admirable job. And I was thinking, could they do that with Robin Williams? And I just don't see how it's possible. I mean, he was that unique a person.
I mean, Rex could play him. I mean,
Well,
there it
you go.
is. So.
Right.
I've been waiting for this opportunity all my life. Thank you, Robin. Someone could mimic him.
Yeah.
I think if you got his shtick, I mean, you could take his moment, but no one could, I think, just do what he did. But yeah, I think you could probably mimic him.
Sure. Rex, and one of the reasons we have you on the show, you have some stories about Robin Williams. You had the opportunity to meet him, didn't you?
I did. I only met him once, interestingly, even though, again, I was in comedy in the 80s and whatnot. It happened in 98. I was actually working in the contestant department for Hollywood Squares. And what I thought was great about him, it was kind of having him on Hollywood Squares. It was a Comic Relief Week, and there was Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg. They were raising money for Comic Relief, if you remember that at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, just be ready for whatever happens. And normally with Hollywood Squares, you write the jokes.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's up there, they have the question, they have a joke in front of them. No one bothered writing for Robin Williams,
Sure.
It just give him, just let him go. And he did. He just ran with it. He ran. And the contestant, and this is where again, I was, his name was Phil Ellis. And Tom Bergeron asked, what do you do? And he said, I'm a salesman. He just, for some reason, stumbled saying that. And Robin Williams ran with that. And he was like, salesman! I'm not afraid of you and your briefcase, salesman! You and your little cellular phone and your pager! And he does, just the whole thing. He went on and on and on and on and on. It was hysterically funny, and everyone was crying. And, matter of fact, if you get a chance to look at the clip, it's on YouTube. I know it's put up there recently. But after, what I thought was amazing was after the show, I had to escort the contestants out of the studio. And we're walking down, there's a huge big hallway in CBS for moving props and stuff. Robin Williams is way down, and he's talking to the stage manager. And he looks over, he sees us, and he says, oh, there they are. And he comes running down. So he was actually looking for this contestant, Phil. He wasn't like casual, he was actually actively, and he came down and he said, to Phil, he said, I just wanted to apologize for poking fun at you on screen.
That's amazing.
He said, I wanted to, I didn't want to make sure you weren't offended. And Phil was like, Are you kidding? Robin Williams was messing with me on national television, and it's interesting that I'm just relaying this to a friend of mine. He made another point, though. I've always thought, my God, what an amazing guy. The fact that he would go out of his way, but then somebody else said, on the other hand, it's also a symptom that he so desperately needed everyone to like him, and everyone, he just couldn't handle rejection, which is a vicious thing if you're going to be in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
To not be able to put up with someone possibly not liking you, even if it's just some contestant.
Some salesman.
Some salesman. Which, by the way, I did bring a prop, by the way. I as professionally, I never asked for any autographs on the show. Because I just think, you're working for the show, so you don't want to be up to celebrities. But, of course, Phil and the other contestant asked, and Robin Williams borrowed my pen. This has never been used since then.
Oh, wow, that's the actual pen.
I did keep the pen. And no one has ever used it. But
wow, that's amazing.
I wasn't going to ask for his autograph, but I said I would. In fact, don't take that cap off.
No, I'm not going to. This is the closest I'm ever going to get to him now.
That's
There you go.
Yeah.
But he did use that.
That's pretty neat,
But,
man.
and if I can continue on this for a moment, I wanted to point out something. I thought it was kind of funny. We were talking earlier at lunch about how people would go up. He said the extra who said, I was an extra on your movie. You remember all that stuff? And he went in and kind of did an exchange with you. Well, as I mentioned before, I was called Mork in high school. So as he's talking to the contestants, I'm like, well, here's my chance. And I went, Mr. Williams, it was always kind of a thing for me. I was that in high school, one of my nicknames was Mork because I was similar to you on the show. He looked at me and went, And he went back to the contestants, and as John's telling me the story about it, everyone talks about how gracious he was, and I'm the only person who had a Robin Williams.
He didn't apologize to you.
Blew me off. He totally blew me off. The one chance I had to relate, but
that's so much better now.
Exactly. But I think
he was a dick to at least one person. We had that guy on our show.
But
That's amazing.
I also think he did not like references to Mork. I knew that, and I was kind of trepidation, had some trepidation in bringing it up because I knew it was like that. Even on his album, if you remember the show he did, when someone says do Mork, and he's like finally just shuts him down and he says I'm doing something else now. He wanted that to be behind him, and so I knew it was risky to bring it up. That's probably why he didn't want to.
Yeah, sure.
They called you Garp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my nickname was Garp.
And speaking of Garp, we'll talk a little bit about some of the movies here that we like. Scott has provided us a top 5. I think we're just going to riff a little bit and talk about some of my favorites. I'll start and then we'll just kind of move around. Dead Poet Society, Death to Smoochie, World According to Garp, Good Will Hunting, and probably one of the most hated Robin Williams movies, but I love it, man, because Popeye. I love Popeye. It's just so funny. It's just kind of like he brought the character to life. So I mean, that's a few there that really stick out in my mind of being my favorite works. In fact, World According to Garp, my little brother and I still quote to this day. Whenever the dog starts barking at us, we yell, "Give me that paper, you hairy son bitch!" So yeah, that's all about.
That's awesome.
Well, I was hanging out with, I don't know if you know him, but Josh the Ponce Man Perry, who said he loved Popeye too, that he does have Down syndrome. So I don't know if that's any sort of connection that was why it was one of his favorite movies. But from Garp, my favorite thing is when I think the airplane crashes into the house.
Yeah.
He says, "We'll take it." What? We'll take it. You know what the odds are of this ever happening again?
Right.
I mean,
That's an amazing moment. My top 5, and it's weird because, we'll just keep the movies.
Yeah.
So if we're going to keep it the movies, Fisher King without questions in the top 5. I feel like obligated to include Good Will Hunting because it did move me, and in a weird way, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck arrived with that film, and they're our age. So it felt like Robin Williams and someone from our generation were sort of working together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. And then they did Project Greenlight. So there's something about that moment that made anything seem possible. So it's Good Will Hunting because it was a great movie, but also the phenomenon.
Launch careers. Definitely.
And that's how he got Batman. So our third one, I actually am a big fan of the movie Survivors. With Walter Matthau. He had a lot of really great lines, and one of them was when he's got a coat on, and he's a survivalist, and he's like, I feel like a gynecologist for a polar bear. And it took me so by surprise that I remember howling in laughter and missing half the movie.
And was that in the script?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably
Sure
not.
What Dreams May Come was a particularly haunting movie. As a matter of fact, that guy's work, almost everything he's done deals with like aging or loss or death or mortality or you name it. Of course, that brings me to the last one, which is Dead Poet Society. I mean, you can't. I mean, not only did that movie really, really affect me, and it launched two great careers of people that still haven't commented yet. Ethan Hawke, dude, you have to say something. Not only is he an actor, he was a fucking writer. You know what I mean? And you can't tell me that experience on Dead Poet Society didn't somewhat inform his aspirations to become one. I mean, that speech was to him as much as anybody. So that kind of startled me, but I also know quite a few people that are English teachers as a result of that film.
Yeah.
So, his speech inspired people, his monologues inspired people such to a degree that Apple actually used it for an iPad commercial. It's like, what will your legacy be? He's quoting Walt Whitman, and I'm maligning the poem, but I'm not a poet or an English teacher. But that movie had a ripple effect above and beyond just being a piece of entertainment, and so that's my top 5.
Well, if there's one, I'm sorry.
Please.
If there's one thing you see on Facebook over and over and over and over and over again, it's kids standing on their desk.
Yeah, right.
It's like if there's anyone who remembers one iconic, life-changing, this really spoke to me moment, I think that's probably the one that people.
Well, he's leaving. He's leaving, and everyone stands up and goes, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." Mm-hmm. I'm almost getting choked up talking about it right now. Like, this might be the first celebrity death that I actually privately cried. And Harold Ramis passed away earlier this year.
That one hurt.
Yeah, and Club Paradise gets honorable mention because Harold Ramis wrote and directed that. It's a shitty Robin Williams movie, but because they're both in it, it's sort of like a weird little treasure.
No, remember? Helium, I brought the wrong goddamn tank.
Right, exactly. It still has some hilarious moments, when we lost him, like you said, that one hurt a great deal. And I actually not only met Harold Ramis, but I edited a sort of retrospective of his career because of his keynote speaker at Columbia College, where I taught in Chicago. And he was so impressed with it that he called me and he was like, "Can I get a copy of that?" And I actually got to deliver it to him and talk to him for a little while. I don't have a copy of it, which kills me. I could probably re-edit it, but the point being, I was very affected by that and very upset. But Robin Williams, I actually cried.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of famous, funny people. I mean, he may not be as big in name as a Harold Ramis or a Robin Williams, but we also lost Rick Mayall this year from the young ones.
Yeah,
who was kind of that pioneer of that raunchy British comedy in the 80s. I mean, the scumbag comedy. I mean, he was one of the forefathers of that. So, I mean, it sucks when you lose the funny ones, because they just bring so much laughter. It just breaks your heart once they go.
And I would agree with, I saw your post you put recently. It was about friends, and I got a friend who's in the military who he posted, why do we care about a dead, drunk drug addict, when all these guys in Iraq have died. And I'm like, you know what? It's different.
It's called empathy.
It's the fact of the matter is, yes, the sacrifices made by soldiers and anyone else, and firemen and policemen, they're huge. But this guy touched the globe. Everyone was affected by this man of lifting them up.
And he did. It's almost inexcusable for that guy because he was in the military, and Robert Williams did a number of USO tours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he really, really respected the military. I actually have a funny anecdote. Comedian Paul Provenza, who he basically wrote and directed the Aristocrats. Like, that's his documentary. Mm-hmm. So he actually posted the weirdest story on BBC where some Muslim jihadist basically he basically said too bad Robin Williams died, but because he made so much fun of Islam, he's burning in hell and good riddance. And then somebody posted this is on a social media feed. Someone said, "Yeah, but Jumanji was a pretty good movie, though." And he was like, "Yeah, that was a really good film. I grew up watching that. We had that." And then people started saying, he also did Flubber, and he was like, "Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Pretty good movie." Yeah. So you like some Robin Williams movies? And he was like, "Yeah." So
he's an infidel, but we'll let him slide on that.
Exactly.
He's still burning in hell, but a funny guy.
Yeah, exactly. So even a jihadist is somewhat affected and moved to comment on Robin Williams.
Talk about breaking down barriers.
Right, exactly, right. And then he goes, Jumanji Hottie. It has a ring to it.
I can already see Robin Williams doing the accent of the infidel and giving the whole thing a flubber.
Exactly.
It's so great. Well, we're going to start closing this down, but we're going to get Scott's top 5 here. And since we are a high-tech organization over here at Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar, I'm going to stand up and move to the iPhone. Here it is.
Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there with you right now. The bionics are healing up well, I must say. So my top 5 Robin Williams movies, no particular order. I would say Aladdin. I loved Aladdin. It was an incredibly funny movie. Dead Poets, obviously. Good Will Hunting, that, goes without said. I like Ben Affleck. John, you know about this. The Birdcage. Really, really, really funny movie. That's one of my favorites. And Hook. I'm a sucker for Peter Pan. Hook's it's a funny movie. I can go back and watch that anytime. Honorable mention, Good Morning Vietnam. The only reason I didn't put that in is because I can't rewatch that over and over. It's not something I could just sit down on a Saturday afternoon and go and watch. So it's a good movie, but it didn't make my top 5. And there are probably other movies that I maybe should just revisit his catalog and check out just to to see what I'm missing, because I haven't seen them all. But these are the ones that really stick out in my head as the ones that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. Way to close it, man.
Well, on that, we appreciate everybody listening. We'll talk about doing some video here in the future, and so you can see all of our ugly mugs here on camera. You can listen to this episode and previous episodes at www.popcornpissandvinegar.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at PPV Guys and join in the conversation at #PPV Guy Talk. Thank you for listening.
Rex, thanks.
My pleasure.
End scene.